The opposition should get to work to save our democracy. We're not a keep them. Say, hey, if we talk now, the country go. No. Opposition for defend the people, protect the people, bring confidence back to the people. That is the responsibility of opposition. Mayor Aki Sawyer does not deserve to be harassed by Parliament, harassed by CID, harassed by President Bio, harassed by the police, harassed at the airport. She does not deserve that. She deserves better. We're in a democracy in this 24th century. She deserves better. It is wrong for going and arrest Ice-T just because he spoke up using his democratic right. And yes, the opposition, of course, have shown so much weakness for 4 years. But every time they say elections is coming. Election is coming. Law be law wait for election. One for keep the peace. People are being killed. People are being walked upon. Anyhow, bastardize the democracy. They're sowing. This is what happens when the opposition does not take action when they should act. You know what happens? A lot of people get aggrieved. Grievances are formed. People think of revenge. And eventually, what happens? That is why when you see in Africa, when power shifts, when power changes in Africa, because of the lackadaisical attitude of opposition members to ensure that they stand up against, barbaric governments, what happens is when power switches hands, people take it upon themselves to seek the justice that they've been seeking for years under these barbaric governments in power. That is why it's very wrong for oppositions to sit by and not take any action saying that they want to keep the peace. No, you're not keeping the peace. You're fomenting the terror. You're fomenting the disaster. You're fomenting future conflicts in the country. But when people see that the opposition are taking actions immediately to stop them, the governments that are abusing the human rights of their citizens, what it does, it gives the people peace of mind, knowing that somebody is fighting for them, knowing that somebody is looking out for them. But when you have a society, when the opposition does not take action to protect its citizens, what happens is it festers this anger, this pain, this anguish in people. So what happens when governments changes and people have an opportunity, that is why you'll see them going after neighbors, because even neighbors are not spared. We saw what happened in Rwanda, and these are all the issues we are saying. We want to stop these things from happening, because what happens is when people take the law into their own hands, they are hard to stop, and it brings conflict, and then it festers on. Matter of fact, what we're dealing with today in Sierra Leone happened since 1964, between 64 and 67. The bad seed of Albert Magai. That is why we have what we have today. Former President Nkrumah came to power for 10 years. There was absolute peace and tranquility in the country. Things were difficult for people, but yes, people had peace of mind. You can speak up and still travel to Sierra Leone. All of these SLPP guys, they did what they did, but they could still travel to Sierra Leone. Nobody was arrested at the airport. Nobody's photo was at the airport. Nobody was reprimanded because they spoke up and participated in our democracy. Because democracy is two ways, right? You speak, I speak back. We have a divergent views. You have a different viewpoint, I have a different viewpoint. So what happens when oppositions don't work? That is why Africa is the way it is today. There is no confidence. Internationally, there is no confidence. Nobody wants to do business with us. All we attract is shady business people, because the opposition that should actually hold down the ruling governments are not doing their job, and they're claiming that they want to keep the peace. We have to keep the peace. Oh no, we don't want to. Sierra Leone is too small, and this and that. Keeping the peace. There is nothing wrong with standing up as the opposition to ensure that people have their rights restored and maintained. When you have people's rights maintained and restored, it gives us peace in a country. When the leaders of these governments in power, violates the rights and civil liberties, the democratic rights and civil liberties of their people, and then the opposition stands up to protect those citizens, believe me, it brings peace, it brings happiness, it brings tranquility in a nation, it fosters growth, it brings confidence, because others could see. And that is what America is doing today, holding President Trump accountable for what he did to the democracy of America. Because if the opposition does not act, it would have destroyed the democracy for 200 plus years that America has been fighting to have a proper democracy. And for only one man to come in 4 years and try to destroy that democracy, if he was not held accountable today, America would have lost, so many people that had confidence in them. America is the greatest country on the earth. Not because, it's by magic. No, they worked towards that. They built the institutions. And thank God for the institutions that held democracy on the 6th of January. The institutions protected democracy in America. That is what we should strive for as Africans. Our opposition parliamentarians, our opposition leaders should not just sit by and watch the governments do whatever they want to do. No, they should stop them on their tracks and bring confidence back to the people and restore peace, restore tranquility, restore hope, restore, life in the people, to trust the process. That is why if you look across Africa, there are coups and counter coups now because people don't trust these governments anymore. People are beginning to go back to the 80s, the 70s, where they preferred having military, taking over these governments rather than having these governments that call themselves democracies and they're not actually practicing proper democracy. Guys, this is why I'm contesting the 2028 elections. This is why I'm going to contest 2028 or 2033 for the presidential in that country. Enough is enough. How long am I going to be up there just screaming and shouting and hollering? Why can't I go down now and see how I can implement these changes to the people? I think it's time we all start thinking about that. Start to think. Start to save some money on the side for 2028. So when I call you guys, say, let's go. We don't have to crack our brains or crack our minds or crack our heads. We should be able to go in full force. Get yourselves prepared. Get yourselves ready. Enough is enough. Yeah? The opposition should get to work to save our democracy. We know they keep them. Say, hey, if we talk now, the country go, no. Opposition for defend the people, protect the people, bring confidence back to the people. That is the responsibility of opposition.
Why would we assume that those institutions will not falter next time? A key lesson of this investigation is this: our institutions only hold when men and women of good faith make them hold, regardless of the political cost.
Because as horrific as the events of January 6th are, there is a hero's story, which is all those people, big and small, who stood up against enormous pressure to do the wrong thing, and they did the right thing. And government cannot go forward with it filled only with people who do the wrong thing. And so her argument is that you need people like that who stand up.
I am offering this resolution that the committee direct the chairman to issue a subpoena for relevant documents and testimony under oath from Donald John Trump in connection with the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. If there's no further debate, the question is on agreeing to the resolution. Those in favor will say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed is no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I request a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Cheney.
Aye.
Ms. Cheney, aye. Ms. Lofgren.
Aye.
Ms. Lofgren, aye. Mr. Schiff.
Aye.
Mr. Schiff, aye. Mr. Aguilar.
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar, aye. Mrs. Murphy.
Aye.
Mrs. Murphy, aye. Mr. Raskin.
Aye.
Mr. Raskin, aye. Mrs. Luria.
Aye.
Mrs. Luria, aye. Mr. Kinzinger.
Kinzinger, aye.
Mr. Kinzinger, aye. Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, aye.
The clerk will report the vote.
Mr. Chairman, on this vote, there are 9 ayes and 0 noes.
The resolution is agreed to.
In a stunning move, the January 6th committee has finally voted to subpoena Donald Trump. The move came in what was billed as the final hearing, where the committee focused explicitly on evidence proving that Trump and his acolytes knew full well that he lost the election and yet made the conscious decision to deceive the public.